It is said that in the world of eternity, there is a monument that governs time. This one is for that little chicken owl. Occasionally, bluebirds fly in and grind their beaks on the stela. And it is said that the stele is cut to the level of a grain of sand. If the tombstone is cut away for such an infinite amount of time and eventually loses its shape, this one is for that little chicken owl. Only then is it expressed that 1 second of eternity has passed. It is a mythical story from Machen's Magical Night. Time acceleration magic. Eternal Stone was set as a magic derived from that myth. Eternal Stone was the wish of Alice Carroll. The black screen. If you activate that magic on the roof of Bartos Hall, you can advance the resurrection time of the evil spirit. However, there were no conditions for activation except to use the phantom clock as a catalyst. So, I remember the story in the game where Alice sent her minions to find the clock. However, the ordeal of Frost seemed to have given Alice a fantasy watch. As a result, Alice must have been able to accelerate the time until the evil spirit was resurrected by activating the Eternal Stone. The illusion clock is probably being used as a catalyst on the roof of the Bartos Hall. The way to solve the problem is simple. Turn the clock hand of the annular clock in the reverse direction, just like a stopwatch. Just press a button and it will turn on its own. Then, at the place where Eternal Stone was activated, time accelerates and starts to go backwards as much as it has passed. You will be able to witness the ridiculous sight of the evil spirit being resurrected and then thrown into the abyss again. 3D glasses and popcorn seem to be in desperate need. However, there is a side effect of returning to the past as much as the time that has passed, since everything in that space accelerates. Of course, in this world, you don't have to worry about what will happen next. That's my plan. Breaking through Alice, go to the roof of Bartos Hall and press the illusion clock button once, then stop the destruction of the world. Clear the ordeal. That's easy. Right? The problem is that the only person who makes it possible is Dorothy. I left the plaza where the vacation was taking place and was crossing the academy grounds. I need to find Dorothy. Perhaps this ordeal is a structure that can only be cleared by enlisting Dorothy. There's no other way than that. How to deal with Alice. I can't see you today. Meh. Where are you? Dorothy. Also, are you spending time leisurely while looking at the natural scenery? Or am I oversleeping because it's vacation? As I continued to think like that, a strong sense of incongruity suddenly crossed my mind. Strange. Bah. The question that came to my mind made my feet stop. Dorothy is the one who boldly accepted that she was destined to die. Therefore, he was a character who could easily throw his life away in order to protect the people of the academy. Is that kind of kid that the evil spirit has been resurrected. But he doesn't appear. But then, in case you have any questions, you can refer to uwmtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. No matter how evil the opponent was, it was impossible. Dorothy is the one who will attack the evil spirit even at the cost of her life. A child who will treat her life as a consumable in the first place? The absurd story that an evil spirit appeared while taking a nap and couldn't stop it doesn't work either. Dorothy's mana-sensing ability is not enough to say that she is at a high level. He must have woken up feeling the immense magical power of the evil spirit. Is there a reason Dorothy didn't come forward? First of all, it was clear that Dorothy was on this island. It's because she has no place to return to when she leaves the academy grounds. Then, what really happened? Senior Dorothy, where are you? If there was Dorothy nearby, I wanted to answer my call. But no matter how much I cried, Dorothy did not appear. Are you in a dormitory? I ran to the academy living quarters and headed to the Charles Hall, a dormitory for top-ranking students. The life of the Marchant Academy's magic department was very quiet. The first year of the Faculty of Magic is having a belated vacation, and the rest of the students are already on vacation. It was the perfect time to break into the Charles Hall. Eden. Kuong. Mana. Light brown mana gathered in the air, and it took the form of a small golem. Eden. I don't know if this guy is real or fake, but that wasn't a big deal right now. He knew where Dorothy's room was. This is information that comes naturally when you play Magic Knight of Marchant. Eden. Make some stairs. Kuong. Rock creation rock attribute. 1. Ice generation ice attribute. 1. Eden made a fish-shaped rock staircase on the outer wall of the women's building in Charles Hall. I built an ice ladder over it. Thanks to the elemental efficiency higher than before, a ladder with a rather sophisticated shape was created. Dorothy's room is on the 3rd floor, because the ceilings on all floors were high. The Charles Hall was located on the 3rd floor, even if it was high. There was no time to feel guilty about going secretly to the women's room. I jumped up the rock steps and then climbed up the ice ladder. A room on the 3rd floor, through the window. The view of Dorothy's room was reflected in my eyes, like gray. There was nothing to see except essential furniture and simple items. On the surface, it is a very quiet and uninteresting place to live. This one is for that little chicken owl. Originally, Dorothy's room was like that. Even the pretty teddy bears that are still there are tucked away in the closet and only their arms are sticking out with their fluffy fur sticking out. In Marchant's Magical Night, Dorothy's feelings are not revealed from beginning to end. But the fact that Dorothy was taking the time to sort out things that might make her life miserable, it was a fact that could be found indirectly by looking for traces of Dorothy while walking around the map. No! Anyway, Dorothy was not in the room. I quickly went down to the ground, counter-summoned Eden, and started running again. I searched all possible places where Dorothy could be, but in vain. Finally, the time of the end has come. and the evil god Nipid is resurrected. A black fireball lands on the ground. The world was destroyed. From now on, we will hold the first year summer vacation of the Faculty of Magic. It's very difficult to find where Dorothy is in this vast academy site. This one is for that little chicken owl. On the other hand, I had a time limit. If the frostbite's cold completely engulfs my body in reality, I die. What is it? What I need now is labor. We needed as many people as possible to help us find Dorothy. However, when playing Magical Night of Marchin, anything that was not on the set Clear wrote for trials tended to be mines. That was one of the reasons Ian felt hopeless in the ordeal. But this ordeal is different from what Ian experienced. Gathering people to find Dorothy in the first place might be one of the ordeal clearing routes. You should try. He nodded and got up from his seat, as expected. The host of the vacation ceremony and the students of the Faculty of Magic began to look at me. I screamed, raising my right arm without hesitation. Kaya, Mateo, Luce, Amy, follow me. For a moment, I swallowed a gasp because the school vacation host, the faces of the students have disappeared. It happened in the blink of an eye. Like an egg ghost. Eyes, nose, and mouth were not visible at all. Only apricot color is full. Their eyes were all on me, without even a slight movement. Only me. Straight. Oh shit. Goosebumps sprouted all over my body. A bizarre sight, reminiscent of a horror movie. Yet. Grow up. Faculty. Students' heads are all split in half. A cross-section of a red body with numerous teeth like a snail caught my eye. I stepped back. Long tongues protruded from their forked heads like anacondas. By the time I heard the chair crash against my leg and fall backwards, I was already running it on full force. Ah, mister? I saw something I couldn't see. It was as seen in Machin's Magical Night. Perhaps when I met Kaya after school break, if I hadn't talked about the same thing as last time, her head would have been split in half right in front of her. I can't even imagine how desperate the situation would have been without the knowledge of the game. Really, those minds looked even more fucked up in reality. This one is for that little chicken owl. Ordeal, you bastard. Dog shit. Okay, I'm just looking for it. As mentioned above, the academy site is quite spacious, so it was important to roll your head as fast as possible and pinpoint where Dorothy might be. Where Dorothy deserves... Where are you? He began to bring out all the things he had talked about with Dorothy so far in his head. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwumtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Nonsense. Useless jokes. Anything is fine. Find the clues. A place where Dorothy might be right now. Where is it? Where are you? Where are you? Chairman? What are you doing here? Isn't that a very reassuring expression? You're my fan after all. Are you happy to be me? Huh? Do you like me as the chairman? Oh! What's the reaction? The president is cute. It's because the stars are so pretty today. While I was watching, I suddenly remembered you and came to see me. Are you still training? Nice to meet you. Look at what you're saying. Cute. Yeah, It was falling from the sky? I was watching the rain clouds gather. I'm gone because there's nothing more to see now. I especially like the moment when rain clouds are formed. Does it have to be aesthetically pleasing? Therefore, I was looking around while flying, and I said, now it's done, and fell. Yeah. I looked up at the sky. Cumulonimbus clouds, which I thought were cumulonimbus clouds, were floating around. Those swarms of clouds will pour rain in the afternoon. To the west, the Akan Sea, where rain clouds are gathering from afar. After passing through several deaths, he scoured the entire radius. Finally, I reached a cliff jutting out near the shore. A girl wearing a witch's hat with pale purple hair was sitting on a cliff with her knees clasped. The place where her gaze was directed was the dark clouds filling the sky above the distant sea. I ran with all my might. I began to approach Dorothy Hartnova, barely holding my breath. She shakes her head. He seems startled by the sudden sound of my footsteps. Senior. What is it? Chairman. What's going on here? Dorothy turned her head toward me, but her face was hidden from the witch's hat. After she sniffed once, she raised her hat and showed a pretty smile. The fact that Dorothy usually lived admiring the sky until she skipped class? Because before I die, I want to keep in my heart even a little bit more of the beautiful things in this world. In the meantime, she hides her feelings with a smile and plays herself who is lovely to anyone. To always shine. She has been working hard. I knew such a Dorothy. Chairman, I sat down next to Dorothy. The sight of rain clouds gathering? I should have noticed it when I first heard it. What's so pretty about that? It was just gloomy. It wasn't pretty at all. Was Dorothy looking at herself in the gloomy rain cloud? Senior. Yes. Anyway, Dorothy here is the reverberation that will disappear. It's just a replica of Dorothy, who was just watching the rain clouds gathering in the distance from the sea during the vacation. Just a tool to clear the ordeal. Nothing more. Nothing less. Still, thinking a lot about Dorothy made me realize that I really had a lot to say to her. It's hard to say to Dorothy in real life right now, so I don't think I'll be able to bear it without saying it this time. I decided to open my lips and let out the inner feelings I had been holding for so long. Do you know that Senior looked really cool? Uh-huh. That's why you became my fan, didn't you? Right. The image of a senior who tried to shine in any situation looked so cool. Hey, I have no choice but to become a fan of this. Okay. But the senior is overdoing it. You are forcing yourself to smile and forcing yourself to see the beautiful things in the world. I want to make the life of my seniors meaningful and beautiful. Even a little bit, I said quietly. Honestly, nothing is beautiful. Is it? Dorothy's smile slowly fades away. However, she immediately puts her smile on her face like a mask. What nonsense is this? Chairman, I'm trying to be a little uninteresting. Dorothy's smile was wary. If I made even one mistake in my words, I was ready to cast magic on me. A lot of people died here anyway. Rather, if I die by Dorothy, I can count it as the best death of my life. The tombstone would at least say sign, Chuduksa. This one is for that little chicken owl. Of course, to mention death playfully. My body was in a really dangerous state right now. When I lifted up my clothes earlier and checked my abdomen, it was darkly frozen. Now, the number of possible regression must have been few. Forward, maybe once or twice. Even so, in case you have any questions, you can refer to umtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Now, even at the risk of death, there was something I wanted to say to Dorothy as I looked back on what had happened with Dorothy. I wondered if my determination to simply save her was wrong. What if Dorothy was hoping for death? What if you don't even want anything to save me? So, it was necessary to check Dorothy's reaction. I will save you. Can I save you or not? I wanted to hear Dorothy's answer. So, don't act like it's a limited time life. And think about how you will live after graduation. Dorothy's eyes widen. Her voice trembles. What? Are you saying that to me? I hope you are happy. Above all, Senior is a person who shines too much for me. It was for that simple reason that I loved Dorothy the most. Dorothy shuddered. There was an awkward silence, and only the sound of the waves shook regularly. It's really not fun. Chairman. After a while, Dorothy turned her head back to the rain cloud and answered. Laughter began to mix with her voice. I prefer to be rescued by force. That side is fun. Rain clouds are not pretty at all. So there was no need to look into it anymore. Dorothy fully understood what I was saying. It seemed that my sincerity had been conveyed. With my head bowed and my eyes closed, I fully felt the moisture coming from the sea through my skin. Dorothy wants to live. That was it. I opened my eyes again and looked at Dorothy. Now that was the point. Senior, I have something important to say from now on. Are you going to get out of here? I already knew that this world was fake. Can I see through the essence of everything? Then, Senior, you knew everything from the beginning? That's not right. I don't know what will happen from now on. But me and this world are fake, so I thought it wouldn't matter what happened. There was no need to give meaning to my existence. This one is for that little chicken owl. Only then could I find out. The reason Dorothy did not fight against the evil spirit was because she knew the world and herself were fake. There was no reason to resist. But I guess that wasn't the case. Dorothy got up from her seat vigorously, smiled bashfully, and held out her immaculate hand to me. Nihe, I'll help you. Chairman, let's go destroy this world together. Really? It's a smile as bright as a fresh fruit. It's so cute it just makes me laugh. Yes, I stood up holding Dorothy's hand. From now on, I'm going to break this ordeal. Help me. Yeah. The president is so funny. Dorothy, who was joking around without regard to my feelings of falling behind. We swept through the air towards the Bardos Hall at mad speed after we had gone into weightlessness while riding in the Starlight Mana, holding onto my dizzying mind with all my might. I screamed out of my throat. As I flew like that, it took only 3 minutes to reach the Bardos Hall from that distant cliff. Quang! Without hesitation, Dorothy smashed the door with her feet wrapped in Starlight Mana. I was finally able to feel the happiness of stepping on the ground out of weightlessness. Wow. I had to hit the floor and vomit in vain. In the meantime, seeing Dorothy holding onto my stomach and smiling while looking at me was a bit disgusting. Perhaps because he came in using magic, Trump's soldiers began to prepare for battle. It was an elaborate meal. Their windows came out in unison and headed towards Dorothy. Who are you sticking the window to? Dorothy spoke in a cheeky tone and lightly flicked her hand wrapped in Starlight Mana. Read at Noble Metal. Firing explosion Starlight attribute. 4. Bang, 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 bang. An amazing sight unfolded before my eyes, where the heads of level 130 Trump soldiers exploded in an instant. The colorful explosion of starlight was very shapely. It's like watching fireworks. Senior. Nice. Nihi. When I gave a thumbs up, Dorothy smiled broadly and gave me a thumbs up. Chairman, I have to do my job now. Yes. I beg you, Senpai. Okay. Leave it to this sister. Dorothy puts her hand on her chest and answers triumphantly. The figure was so cute, and even in an urgent situation. Laughter flowed out. I started running up the large central staircase with the red carpet. I remembered checking the clock tower while I was rushing all the way here. There must be 5 minutes left until the evil spirit resurrects. It would take about 4 or 5 minutes to reach the roof from here. Time was running out. Black Rabbit neutral attribute. 7. Dwarf Star Starlight attribute. 5. Kua. With Charalala? Wow. When reaching the landing, a rabbit-like figure fluttering with black energy flew in from the side. But a brilliant mana explosion stopped the rabbit. The wind pressure generated in the aftermath gently pushed my body away. I flew sideways and rolled over the landing. Are you the hindrance? Alice Carroll, the student council president with a graceful face with her alchemy feet hanging down, came to me spitting out lines that were already tired. Around her, a magic circle shining in gray was embodied. Dorothy Hartnova, I didn't know you'd fit in. Alice's pale pink eyes turned to the side and turned towards Dorothy. Dorothy was watching Alice with a smiling face with her starlight magic circle deployed. Nah. You must have been trash. Alice, are you disappointed? No, I'm glad. I hated you, but now, there is nothing morally wrong with you, right? The two top powers of the Marchant Academy were exchanging a gentle smile and living at the same time. The mighty mana seemed to compress the space. My legs were shaking because of the instant survival instinct screaming, but I was able to calm down immediately thanks to the effect of the passive skill, Ice. Wick! As I got up from my seat and started running, I took the Sword of Disaster from my arms and threw it at Alice. The Scabbard of Disaster, and the feeling that my body is connected with a small thread, I pulled the thread in my head and activated the magic. The magic circle engraved on the Scabbard of the Disaster lit a pale blue light. The storage magic, Freeze Explosion, was activated. Ice Explosion Ice Attribute. 5. Cold magic exploded from the Scabbard of the Disaster, and the ice flooded. The gray monster Alice summoned opened its mouth with even teeth, and swallowed the mana explosions and ice ingots caused by Freeze Explosion. Food God Neutral Attribute. 7. A large, tentacle shape. Gray monster with multiple eyeballs arranged elongated on its body. It jumped out of the gray magic circle on the ground and began to guard Alice. This one is for that little chicken owl. Of course, I knew it was going to be like this. My magic won't be able to scratch Alice a single scratch. I was already running past Alice and running up the stairs. The Shikigami pulled out its long body like a snake and followed me. A baby. Not caught. A mission of a dwarf starlight attribute. 5. A colorful beam of light wrapped around the swarm of stars crossed the air, pierced the body of the Shikigami, and annihilated it. Alice had already turned sideways, avoiding Dorothy's magic. However, it seems that part of the skin on her cheeks could not be prevented. Dorothy's starlight magic deals with all kinds of physical forces in a complicated way. This leads to pure destructive power. Alice must have already realized that protecting herself with defensive magic in front of Dorothy's magic was meaningless. Avoidance was a wise choice. Hey, you bastard. Alice let out a bloody smile as she touched the scar on her cheek. The cross veins sprouted from her forehead, revealing her anger. This one is for that little chicken owl. Okay, no problem. Now Alice has to be stopped by Dorothy. Suddenly, the monster Cheshire went to Alice's side and joined her. Serious look, with Dorothy Hartnova in front of them. It seemed that they couldn't afford to worry about me. If it's Dorothy, it won't be too hard against Alice and her 8-star workhorse. Mysterious Cheshire, Che-A-Ang, Quagwagaga River. Ku-Woo-Wong. The fight between Dorothy and Alice continued. Dorothy thought the fighting stage was too narrow, so she smashed the outer wall of the building and lured Alice out. The building and the Earth's axis shook from the ceiling. Dust continued to pour over and over again. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Hiuhue. My body became quite dull, perhaps because the frosty scythe's cold engulfed my body considerably. However, I couldn't slow it down. I clenched my teeth and ran. Suddenly, beyond the half-destroyed outer wall, Dorothy and Alice were in a duel in the sky. It was very flashy. Numerous star clusters and colorful magic circles were dominating the area. Beams poured out, and colorful starlight explosions followed one after another. Read at Noble Mel. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. No human can beat Dorothy at this Marchant Academy. He is a genius who has been driven by the blessings of heaven, who is thought to rise to the level of an archmage in no time. With Charalala, Quaggaga River. Trump soldiers on black rabbits, white rabbits, and white-winged horses were summoned on a large scale like a corps. Each individual was a minion that was overwhelmingly stronger than me. However, with a single gesture, Dorothy radiated starlight magic and wiped out Alice's minions very lightly. Brilliant starlight and gray color filled the sky, a group of magic circles unfolding innumerable successively. The battle between Dorothy and Alice was roaring and growing in scale. Before long, I reached the roof. Taking a breath, I looked at the magnificent rooftop view, a luxurious design befitting the exterior of the Bartos Hall. The beautiful structures that stretched out from the outskirts were brightly shining the magic stones embedded in my body, and a huge magic circle filling the roof floor, a bizarre form with numerous meandering strokes. The magic circle was scattering bright red light. It was a harbinger of the resurrection of the evil god Nipit. In the center of the magic circle, a rectangular tombstone emitting a heterogeneous pale yellow light stood tall. It was eternal stone. A curtain of time acceleration was wrapped around the roof. Suddenly, I felt like my body was floating, and I looked down at my right hand, crackling. Little by little, there was a noise. It seemed to be a phenomenon that appeared due to entering the eternal stone realm. But soon, the evil spirit will be resurrected, so my time will accelerate and stop for a very short time. Whoa! He took a deep breath and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Now it was time to see the match. Eternal stone. I ran forward. As expected, in front of the tombstone, a golden pocket watch fluttered with magical power. Illusion clock. Time Magic Catalyst. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwumtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Now, if you just grab this watch, ouch. The magic circle emits an intense light, and the Eternal Stone is released. A huge pillar of magic soared endlessly into the sky, scattering eerie red light. As a result, my body flew away and crashed into the railing. There was a pain in the back of the head. I thought I was going to faint. Ouch. However, along with the moan, laughter erupted out of nowhere. I had a fantasy clock in my hand. Done. It's not late. It will be successful. Soon. A red aurora filled the sky where Dorothy and Alice were fighting. Dorothy looked surprised. A single eye large enough to cover the sky above them began to look down at the world. Angra Mainyu? He was a servant of the evil spirit. Then, the destruction dragon, Eiji Dahaka, which protrudes from the red pillar, soars through the sky and roars with a bizarre cry. The colorful structures adorning the roof of Bartos Hall began to be eaten by the sullen mealworms. The giant bugs took the place of the structure. I grabbed the railing and stood up. Heavy mana silenced the atmosphere. A feeling of pressure on the body. It was only then that I realized that the darkness of the abyss had filled the entire roof. In the darkness beneath my feet, many eyes that had been silent floated upward. It was the eerie eyes made up of red eyes and black masturbation. Then, as I shifted my gaze to the center of the roof, a faint shadow of a woman within the red pillar began to shine through my eyes. The darkness that filled the roof was the hem of the woman's black dress. Her garments are darkness itself. A powerful demon has been detected. Man, the level difference with the enemy is extreme. Medana. Run away immediately. Run away immediately. Run away immediately. Nephite, the evil god of ruin. Race, demon. Attributes, darkness, fire, emptiness, risk, extreme, psychology. Nepid. When I removed the warning window that popped up and witnessed the evil spirit up close, my survival instinct began to rage violently. If it hadn't been for ice to work, I would have lost strength in my legs and collapsed. I can't even imagine how strong I must be to defeat that woman. I don't even know if I'll be able to knock it down in the first place. However, I will inevitably defeat that final boss. Weak thoughts do not die, so I'm here to make up my mind right now. After taking a deep breath, he called out a woman's name in a loud voice. Dorothy. I turned to the owner of the name. Her eyes also turned to me. All of a sudden, she took off her witch's hat and fluttered her pale purple hair. His expression was very serious, with his back to the apocalyptic landscape. A swarm of colorful stars floats towards the shining star witch. I shouted out my throat burst. I asked why you trained so hard. The world is destroyed by evil spirits. It was to prevent that. I was possessed as the weakest in the game. Hell difficulty I enjoyed. Stop the destruction of this world. I want to live, but the control of the main character's chick is serious. This world and you too. And me too. I will save them all. Then there is nothing you can do. So Evil spirits, this one is for that little chicken owl. Only to prevent the bad ending. I will knock you down. A smile spread across Dorothy's frozen face. She stretches out her arms towards me, spreads her index and middle fingers to make a V shape, and smiles innocently. Signed to no. The distinctive knee-high laughter seemed to come to my ears as well. A battlefield where a rain of black flames is pouring down. In the red pillar, the evil god, Nephid, was slowly rising into the air. The darkness of the demonic dress slowly rises and engulfs my body. 5 pairs of black wings spread out, creating a violent storm. A dark shadow looked down on me in the red pillar. Evil spirit. I watched her overbearing figure and pressed the reverse button on the illusion clock. Duck. For a moment. Time stops. Tick, tick, tick. With the regular sound of the clock's gears turning. The surroundings are dyed with brilliant gold, as if the video was played in reverse. Evil spirits and minions began to be sucked into the magic circle. Nephid's dark garments, which were swallowing up my body, were also gradually disappearing as the sea level was sinking. Suddenly, I felt a sense of emptiness. Everything in the realm where Eternal Tombstone was activated, even a single grain of dust, has to go through a time regression phenomenon equal to the amount of time it was accelerated. I would have to go through the side effects if it was the same. But well, since the early resurrection of the evil spirit was prevented, this would clear the ordeal. The only thing left to do now is to return to the Cave of Trials. I felt a twist in my brain, and I couldn't think anymore. Gradually, my consciousness drifted far away, and when you open your eyes, I was still in the midst of an ordeal. When the time regression was over, I was standing still in a clunky, cramped room. Subtle woody smell. The smell of dirt flowing through the open window. The rain seemed to have stopped a while ago. When I looked out the window, I could see the panoramic view of the sky with dark clouds over the expansive vegetation. A rainbow was crossing the world. Pleasant scenery. Pleasant smell. Even though it was my first visit to this place, I was starting to feel more and more relaxed, like a person soaked in nostalgia. Where is this? I instinctively knew the answer to that question. It's a house. Isaac's house. As my time went backwards as much as the accelerated time, I had moved into the past more than 2 years. I was wearing a light brown shirt with no appearance. He lifted the hem, revealing his already frozen abdomen. It was as if I had not passed the ordeal, seeing that I could not return to the tunnel raging through the blizzard. Not yet. Yet. I had a gut feeling that this was the place where the ordeal would end. Time acceleration, time regression, and Isaac's past. This series of flow itself must have been the answer to pass the ordeal. Blocking the resurrection of the evil spirit must have been merely a process to reach this final gateway. Suddenly, a piece of paper on the desk caught my eye. Someone's request was written. Don't hate your sister. I don't know who this handwriting is, but I feel very nostalgic. I opened the door and went out into the hallway. Narrow hallway. A young woman with blue and silver hair hanging from the wall stood leaning against the wall. Red eye. Resembles mine? Go when you are ready. Because I don't have the face to see. Subdued voice? I had a sense of who she was, etched in my mind. Is it Isaac's older sister? She shut her eyes softly. After uttering that one word, his will not to mix with me anymore was revealed. I don't know exactly what happened, but I respected her intentions and started traversing the hallway by myself. The wooden plank floor creaked with every step. It was a fairly old house. I know what to do. A man's weeping voice faintly crossed his mind. At the same time, I felt a pull towards the stairs. Walked out. I climbed up the wooden steps that had been repaired to see if they had been broken once or twice. He's like a garbage man. He grabbed his scruffy hair. A voice I had never heard before, but a familiar voice was intermittently ringing in my head. Where is the pride of a mother like me? When you go up to the second floor, there is an attic. I'm incompetent. Mom. Incompetent. Incompetent. A non-talented, skit-like extra. White silk curtains fluttered in the early autumn wind. In front of him, on an old, worn-out bed, a middle-aged woman with blue and silver hair was lying there like a corpse, staring at the ceiling. Two bare arms resting on the blanket that covered the body. To be emaciated, there was no vitality in the skinny woman's body. I'm sorry. Mom. Sorry. I'm sorry, I'm just such a guy. Duh. Isak here. To let you know that I've been through a lot. Then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehui. My chest was pounding. It seemed to be Isaac's own feelings, not mine. The intense memories of regret that remained in this body responded to that one word. The blue silver-haired woman looked at me and smiled with strength. He was beckoning me to come. Skinny hands with skin clinging to the bones. I walked slowly towards her. Next to the bed was a walnut chair that someone had prepared for him to sit on at any time. I'm sorry for calling you. What are you doing? Not sitting. The woman's voice cracked like a dry paddy field without any moisture. Did I go back in time to when the woman called me? With that in mind, I sat down on the chair. It was not difficult to guess who the woman in front of me was. Silver hair. Red eyes. The little boy was just like his mother. This one is for that little chicken owl. Outside the window, an appropriately sized maple tree was reflected in my eyes. Maple leaves swaying in the wind looked precarious, as if they were about to fall. Will you hold my hand? I clasped her dry hand. I called because there was something I really wanted to say. The woman tried to capture my face in her eyes, cherishing even a single blink of an eye as if it were a luxury. I think Isaac was 8 years old. She chews the cud back on her memories. It was a face that pondered precious memories. At that time, my mother was joking. What would you do if your mother turned into something like a great wizard or a great knight and went away to protect people? The woman laughed bitterly, because I was a lively kid. I thought you would laugh at me saying it was nonsense. But then, do you remember what you said? I shook my head. I didn't say anything. There were only tears in my eyes. A woman who smiles brightly. It was a happy face. At the time, I thought I was a very lucky woman. To have such a lovely son come to me. Tears welled up in the woman's eyes. Thank you for being born, Isaac. To me, you were a very proud son. As I walked down the creaky hallway and climbed the stairs, the voice that echoed in my head came to mind again. It was Isaac's voice. At the words of the woman just before, Isaac was only weeping and demeaning himself. To the woman who was about to leave now, she said that she was a son who was not at all proud of her mother, and I couldn't bear it. In my memory, the woman stroked Isaac's hair and shook her head with a smile. Whatever Isaac said. To a woman. He was the most loving and proud son of all. Isaac's regrets and trauma, which stuck together like mud in the rain. The final gateway of this ordeal will be to overturn the regretful time that pierces the heart. The last thing you said to your mother, who was leaving, was to belittle yourself. That fact made Isaac unbearably pathetic. What should I say? There wasn't much to worry about. Because the words I wished Isaac had always been like this began to line up in my head. I just had to recite it as it is. I held the woman's hand while she smiled softly. He began to lick his lips. Yeah, I got a lot of hallways. Mom, they gave birth to a handsome son like me. Playfully laugh once in a while. Did I say this? I'm trying to get into the magic department of the country's most prestigious academy. A place where only good people gather. I want to become an archmage someday by honing my magic there. Even the Empire wouldn't dare touch me. Because she gave birth to me like that? My mother is truly a wonderful person. I smiled brightly. For me, my mother was the most lovable and proudest person in the world. Thanks for giving birth to me. Mom. Woman's eyes, tears welling up in her lifeless eyes. Finally, as she smiled brightly, the transparent tears from the corners of her eyes streamed down her cheeks. A look that said there was nothing to worry about. The sound of the early autumn wind, the sound of curtains fluttering. Silence. A maple leaf from a maple tree outside the window falls naturally in the wind. That's the way nature is. Machen's magical night. The end of ordinary extras that are not illuminated in the play may be just falling leaves. I can't impress anyone or anything. Insignificant. Nothing. A life that is not a protagonist. However, even those who did not receive the light of the play had their own stories. Isaac's story is engraved in his mind. Isaac, who had demeaned himself while crying before his mother passed away, regained his will and began to aim for the Marchant Academy. He had no spiritual talent in magic, so he had to dig into the theory study to become a model who excelled in theory. After much selection and concentration, Isaac succeeded in entering the Marchant Academy, but this was only a fluke. After coming to the academy, he faced his limits and realized how weak he was in the sarcasm of the students. I was even more frustrated when I saw Ian's excellent growth rate, who had the same amount of horsepower. E-class. Isaac eventually went on a long trip to this world to pursue his mother during the academy vacation. The reason Isaac started to disappear from the middle of Magic Night of Marchant was because of his disappearance. Extra. Isaac was just an extra, but he also had a story about a man named Isaac. This moment was the story that Isaac couldn't finish, who tried to become the main character, not an extra, and that was the prologue. The woman closed her eyes with a smile. I gently pressed my forehead to hers and quietly closed my eyes. Enjoying the gentle breeze of autumn, I saw off the woman who was leaving on her last journey. A cold, livable sack wind pierced through the winter clothes and fertilized my whole body. But regardless of the pain of my skin being slashed with a knife, I moved forward. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My vision was full of pitch black darkness and a raging blizzard. I could see a ray of light, so I just had to move towards it without hesitation. I went through the ordeal, overcoming Isaac's trauma. The world collapsed, and when I closed my eyes, I returned to reality. Face was stiff. His lips must have been dyed blue. His whole body was trembling violently, and the cold chill was filling his bones. I couldn't help but make a suffocating sound. His feet had already become numb, but he moved his legs somehow, knowing that if he stopped here, everything would be over. The rays of light are getting closer. Many parts of my body had already lost sensation, and the urge to collapse at any moment came over and over again. But as I approached my destination, I couldn't stop. He closed his eyes, keeping his direction. Even though I feel that my breath is stopping, I move, one step at a time. When the dark world finally became brighter, I could barely lift my heavy eyelids. Light blue mana was swirling around the center of the space as a centripetal point. The one in the middle was an ultramarine blue scythe floating in the air. The sensation in my legs was completely gone. I stumbled forward. He crawled forward, scraping the ice floor with his hands. The thick gloved hands kept bothering me, so I took off the gloves and moved forward, pointing to the floor with my dull-colored hands. Eventually, even his fingers lost sensation, and he proceeded, scraping the ice with his face and teeth. Finally, I reached the source of my frost mana. As a result, the body began to freeze rapidly. Now that I am in a state where I can no longer move forward, I am very fortunate. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uamtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat, Numb Arm. However, the forearm and shoulder muscles were still usable. I managed to raise my arm and reach out towards the frostbite. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My arm freezes. The thick cold air tore the skin apart, and the frostbite and frostbite were created. Still, I didn't stop. He just stretched out his arms, repeating to himself, a little more, and yet, my hand, through the cold mana, it touched the frost scythe. I got it all. The extreme cold had frozen his head, so he could not accurately think. One side of his face was completely frozen, and even his expression was distorted. Just thinking that my hand touched the frost scythe, she had a very happy smile. You have passed the ordeal of frost with strong will and mental strength. Congratulations. Trial reward, Hild's Frostbite, has been acquired. Hild's Frostbite. You have acquired the unique active skill, Heaven Domination, White Knight. Hild's Frostbite. You have acquired the unique active skill, Heaven Domination, Sangya. Hild's Frost Scythe. You have acquired the unique active skill, Glory of the Frost Lord. Hild's Frost Scythe. Unique active skill, Absolute Zero, has been acquired. Hild's Frostbite. Unique passive skill, Rapid Cooling, has been acquired. The summer wind is gradually getting cooler. Gradually, the twilight was coming down. Boo! A balloon demon that floated in the sky as if it were a part of a cloud. The poisonous Heinkel. He was looking down at a magic circle in Isla Forest. The blue-haired man I was watching went into the magic circle. The self-taught Heinkel had no interest in the Child of Light, because the light property only makes humans feel disgusted like a cockroach. However, the blue-haired man was a different story. Normal ice properties with no fuss. His spirit, which risked his life to fight the Thundercreed, was worthy of consideration, and he felt a sense of victory. Blood, because I'm a hindrance. The bloody battle that risked his life with the silver-haired man is his. His life is also his. After all, he is a saboteur, so he must be killed. Justification is enough. Leave the Child of Light to other demons. All he has to do is engage in a bloody duel with that man. Blood battle. Mine. His neck, mine. Yeah. The face that was attached to the swollen body was distorted, and a bizarre smile filled the entire face. Saliva dripped from his mouth like a dog that found even delicious food. Finally, time became... The helpless balloon body was just a process to stock up on strength. Now his body is in top condition. Cheer profit. Heinkel's balloon exploded in various places, and a turbid gas began to spurt out like steam from the gap. Gradually, The body shrank, and Heinkel became a humanoid body with a height of 4 meters. The large buffalo horns that had been buried in the body of the balloon were revealed. Strong muscular body. However, the sagging flesh was dripping down from his wrists, sides, and ankles as if there were lumps. Generate wind attribute. 1. Whoa. 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 A dense wind engulfed his body, causing him to stay in the air. The venomous Heinkel began to rip off the drooping flesh. It was like a shuddering sound, as if the stacked papers were being torn all at once. He grabbed the torn pieces of flesh in one hand, pouring out purple blood. The wound healed instantly. The flesh quickly rotted black and coalesced to form an elongated spear. The sharply forged spear blade reflected the afterglow of the sunset that had not yet sunk over the horizon. Clear facial features. Heinkel's sharp eyes turned towards the magic circle. It became a solemn voice echoes through the air. Pew! It sprints through the air and crosses the air towards the magic circle. The sound of a cannon exploding resounds. The speed is as fast as a bullet. Where Heinkel had left, the wind was belatedly spreading. I will be tried by the frost. Bye-bye. Active skill. Ear to hear thunder. The effect that no matter how far away a sound is, I can hear it at will. Thanks to you, I recite the magic circle entrance chant that I overheard from Isaac. Heinkel's body passed through the magic circle engraved in Isla Forest. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Meanwhile, the trial cave of Frost, the blizzard that raged in the ordeal, had subsided behind the ice and snow dragon. The road to the frostbite has been transformed into an eerie passage that seems to lead to the abyss. It was because the man in the enemy's eyes overcame the ordeal and obtained the frost scythe. Come here. Bingji, Mae. Ice and Snow Dragon closed her eyes. Thousands of years ago, the request of the Ice Maker comes to mind. Can you hold it down until a new owner of the Frostbite appears? Bing and Snow Dragon willingly accepted, saying that he wanted to take a part for the next generation of people who would change the world. Finally, at this moment, the intense cold of the frostbite that had been condensed for many years fell into the hands of a man. It is no longer necessary to restrain Frosthorn's mana from encroaching on terrestrial islands and seas. It was a pleasure. It's been a long time since my heart fluttered. At that time, Ice and Snow, Dragonhild noticed another person's visit. Reptile eyes, emitting a light blue color, turned towards the approaching intruder, a 4-tall muscular demon holding a black spear, a self-contained Heinkel. He trampled the ice floor with his big feet with long claws. He was walking while scattering heavy mana. A dark green wind was flowing around Heinkel's body and spear, a mixture of black and light green. Dark mana. It was a demon that no one could deny. What kind of uninvited guest? Ice and Snow, Dragon's voice was filled with deep vigilance. Bekryong. I love it. The scales. The meat. I crave. Heinkel said so in a voice that was monotonous and unfeeling like a machine. He lightly swung the spear wrapped in magical power. Wind Tusk Wind Attribute. Plus Black Wind Attribute. 5. Highling Tusk Wind Attribute. Quagga Gaga River. A gust of wind blew in an instant. As if a pack of wolves rushed in and bit, a strong dark green wind blew the ice ingots with a seamless attack. The ice mass was cut off in an instant, and the Ice and Snow Dragon was helplessly attacked by Hayrang Tusk. There was only a slight scratch on the hard white jade scales, and it stopped. It's big and hard. Heinkel made the most of her lack of vocabulary and gave short speeches. Hard. But that's it. The Ice and Snow Dragon has been sleeping for 1,000 years while suppressing the frost mana of the frostbite. Because of that, it was a situation of power for now, as the ice ingots began to crumble. The Ice and Snow Dragon completely unwrapped the ice ingots. It's been a long time since I've stepped on the ground with 4 legs. You are stronger than me. However, I am tired. Clearly. The Ice and Snow Dragon showed off its sharp teeth and began to warn like a beast. Heinkel was bluntly prepared for battle. In the face of his greed, it doesn't matter if the opponent is a mythical beast or a legend. Why? I am not curious. I desire your scales and meat. The poisonous Heinkel leaped towards the Ice and Snow Dragon, wrapped in dark green wind magic on the spear. In an instant, the ice ground shattered like glass, and the wind blew away, turning Wind Attribute. 4 on Black Wind Attribute. 5. Black Victory Wind Attribute. The destructive power of the spear wrapped around the dark green tornado Black Song is at a level that can pierce even the hard scales of the Ice and Snow Dragon. Ice and Snow Dragon didn't even have the magical power left to develop defense magic. You will probably be deeply wounded. However, Heinkel's attack did not reach the White Dragon. Frostfire Ice Attribute. 4 as Black Ice Attribute. 5. Coldfire Ice Attribute. Rumble Rumble. Dark blue cold flames rushing violently. Heinkel's body was pushed back by that fierce force. It was a direct hit. It rolls violently on the ice floor, then stands up holding its center. The frostbite that filled the whole body was healed quickly by giving the body strength. At that moment, an eerie sensation wrapped around her body, behind the Ice and Snow Dragon. A thick, cold air was flowing out from the darkness. Heinkel's lips twitched. In the aisle, the blue silver-haired man he was looking for was striding out. A navy blue scythe was held in the right hand of the blue silver-haired man, like a grim reaper. the man escaped out of the aisle, scattering lively cold air. Inside a beautiful ice cave like a palace, the light blue mana light lit the figure of the blue silver-haired man, and the sharp blade of the scythe reflected the light. Bing and Snowdragon also turned their head to take a look at it. He in a light robe. It looked like he had thrown away the dangling winter clothes. By nature, wizards are not affected much by their own magic. In other words, the fact that the blue silver-haired man did not get cold here was proof that the coldness of the frostbite was completely his. A blue silver-haired man with his eyes down. Heavy mana pressed down on Heinkel's whole body. It felt as if the strong water pressure of the deep sea was about to crush him. Then, the man slowly raised his head. The cold, bloody eyes turned towards the demon. Is it Heinkel of the Monopoly? I know the name. Heinkel felt a tingling sensation all over his body. Did you know my name? Heinkel can see anything from a distance, with the power of Claire. With the power of the ear that hears thunder, it can hear sounds from afar. However, Heinkel, who was monitoring the blue silver-haired man with such powers, he realized that he was intoxicated with complacency in his grasp. Excellent, excellent. I like it too. A battle with you. A blood battle? Heinkel exclaimed with excitement. The blue silver-haired man only showed an indifferent reaction as if he was watching a passing insect. That appearance stimulated Heinkel's win-win spirit even more intensely. Hild. The blue silver-haired man extended his left arm toward Bing and Snowdragon Hild. On his wrist was an 8-star working horse contract engraved, "Come to me." The blue silver-haired man's cynical order came down. He couldn't afford to pay attention to his tone as he had to adapt to the frostbite's cold. Kiss. Ice and snow, Dragon's eyes widened. That cold expression. That cold voice. Because it overlapped with the image of the Ice Emperor he had seen while drifting in his dream. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat, no matter how you look at it. The aura you can feel from him is undoubtedly an ice cream thing. It was the power of the king that could not be explained without Ice Emperor. Fufu. Bing and Snowdragon let out a faint laugh. For 1,000 years, I was only missing you. Bingjin. Banal. I will be able to travel to a new world with you again. Am I using the expression like a dream at this time? My chest is pounding. Ice and Snowdragon throws away the sense of duty that was attached to it like its skin. The blue silver-haired man accepted Isaac as his new owner. Wow. The 8-star working horse contract team began to emit an intense light blue light. The same color magic was wrapped around the body of the Ice and Snowdragon, a symbol of the Duchy of White Clark in the northern region. An 8-star beast engraved with a name in mythology, Ice and Snowdragon Hild. At this moment, the white dragon's forehead is newly engraved with a pale blue-colored workhorse. Immediately, the powerful magic of the new owner flowed into the Ice and Snowdragon. Unlike a minion, a workhorse has a close relationship with a formal master-slave contract. If the owner had the same attribute, it was possible to receive magic power. Soon, Isaac stood in front of the Ice and Snowdragon and faced Heinkel, a self-reliant eater. The pale blue magic that soaked into the frostbite stood up coldly. Behind him, the Ice and Snowdragon began to refine his magic, the magic of Tsukima. The Ice and Snowdragon comes under the control of its owner, Isaac. In other words, the Ice and Snowdragon's magic that will be poured out from now on will only eat the enemy. It wouldn't do any damage to my owner. Unless he has the will to directly fall into the magic of the samurai. A pure white cold began to wrap around. Ice and Snowdragon's unique skill, Frostwind, was activated. The power to increase the master's ice magic power and freeze the enemy's body to make it dull. It was a strong snowstorm that made Isaac dominate the battlefield. Ka! The fierce roar of the white dragon shakes the cave. A frigid blizzard rages with Frostwind. Heinkel's vision began to turn gray. Frostwind. What could be seen through the gap were the man's red eyes and the white dragon's pale blue eyes. I love it. You, the white dragon. I covet. I love it. What's up? Heinkel's smile distorted excessively. To counter the Frostwind, he poured out his magical energy. Heinkel's wind began to blow. Heinkel's unique attribute mana resides in that wind. Squall wind property. 4 plus Venus poison attribute. The hive. Poison wind plus poison attribute. The venomous purple wind erodes Isaac's body as it competes with Frostwind, a powerful poison that can kill living beings with even the slightest breath. However, Isaac lightly lifted the frostbite once and slammed it down to the floor, driving away Heinkel's poison wind. Grace of the Frostlord ice attribute. 7. A dazzling light blue brilliance spread in all directions. A magic that drives away all the magic that came upon the caster. Glory of the Frostlord. His target was the only magic that Isaac could handle, but his level was already overwhelmingly higher than that of Heinkel. The apex of the freeze attribute. The intimidation of the Frostlord flows from Isaac. Heinkel felt the warmth rising in her chest. Uplifting. Uplifting. How many times have you faced an enemy that makes your heart tremble like this? Also, you guys are covetous. I love it. Coup. Heinkel melted the frozen body of the Ice and Snowdragon's Frostwind with magical power and ran towards Isaac at a sharp speed. A dark green tornado winds around the black spear. Black Sung. Just before stabbing Isaac, Isaac's gentle voice reverberates through the air. Then you think he was a boring guy? The little boy lowered his eyes. Magic Knight of Marchin Heinkel, a self-taught demon who first appears in the first year second semester part. He was a demon in the role of a joker who appeared like a variable in several episodes, who acted arbitrarily regardless of the orders of the evil god. Heinkel's strength in the game was indescribable. In front of Isaac, who had the frostbite's coldness, he was just one helpless and weak. Isaac slid the Frosthorn's head toward Heinkel. The magic circle of freeze explosion was implemented in front of it. Heinkel's spear was about to touch Isaac. The magic of the frost sickle attacks the demons. Rapid cooling ice attribute 7. Crazy. A passive skill that rapidly freezes everything near the frost scythe. Quick cooling. In the blink of an eye, Heinkel's body froze. From the magic circle embodied in front of the frost scythe, one after another, a cold magical explosion occurred. Ice explosion ice attribute 5. A strong rush of ice. The blast of cold violently shattered Heinkel's already frozen 5 intestines. The icing gets spread wildly, imprisoning Heinkel's broken body like an exhibit. At some point, Heinkel's body in the ice mass had become a torso that had been shattered into pieces. Slur! A huge ice mass formed by freeze explosion flew into the light blue powder. The corpses of the demons, who had already died, were scattered on the floor. A silver aura emanated from the corpse and condensed in the air. The poisonous Heinkel disappears into gray powder. The condensed aura flowed into Isaac like cigarette smoke. For a brief moment, the right eye turned silver, and then it returned to red. Heinkel's unique magic, Claire, was engraved on Isaac's right eye. Isaac got rid of the frostbite with the sense engraved on his instincts. It was like turning the frost scythe into a light blue powder and absorbing it into the body. It was as if there was a new cabinet where you could take out or put a frostbite from deep inside your body. Then, Isaac turned his head towards Ice and Snow Dragonhild. Ice and Snow, Dragon closed her eyes, bent her front paws, and bowed her head. With tears in her eyes, she bowed to the new owner. Bye, Ice. Bad. For Ice and Snow Dragon. It was a very moving moment. For the fate that allowed me to meet you again, I expressed my gratitude. Suddenly, the Ice and Snow Dragon was in the form of light blue mana and forcibly reverse summoned. For a moment, Baekryong was confused and said, Pyohando, Bun. A view of the ice cave that began to look unnecessarily wide as soon as the giant Ice and Snow Dragon disappeared. The little boy was sweating profusely like he was in trouble. It was because absurd magical power was put into maintaining the summoned state of the Ice and Snow Dragon. As soon as the unique characteristic Destroyer was released, he felt a sense of danger that his magical power would be depleted, and immediately reverse summoned the Ice and Snow Dragon. Oh my! After Isaac's dignified exclamation, there was only empty silence in the ice cave. The time was right after Isaac passed the ordeal. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtil.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Northern. White Clark family mansion. The cry of Kareed or White Clark, a woman with short pink hair, echoed through the large mansion of the family. Sister. AKL sister. Help. It's urgent. The life and death of an academy classmate named Isaac is at stake, and the only person who knows that is you. Karidna couldn't stand it. If it's AKL, maybe she can figure out a way to help Isaac somehow. With that in mind, it's been 20 minutes since I was walking around the spacious mansion with the maids. It was crazy to think that no one knew AKL's whereabouts. Where the hell is that sister hiding? Karidna reached AKL's office. I checked it before and passed, but it may be happening now. I don't know. Karidna knocked hard on the office door. Sister Akal, help me. People want to die. Who? Wow. As a carefree voice rang from behind, Karidna looked at the owner of the voice, terrified. The woman Karidna had been looking for so long stood there with a faint smile on her face. It was Akal White Clark, a mature beauty with neatly braided pink hair and a dress and a uniform. Oh, my sister. I didn't feel anything at all. How else did you walk? I was just walking normally. It's just that you're so dull that you didn't notice. Akal opened the door. Inside, it was a monotonous office room with only necessary furniture. However, behind the desk in the office, the White Dragon, the symbol of the White Clark family, was splendidly decorated. Well, more than that. Who is dying now? Are you awake? Karidna closed her eyes to make sure Isaac was still in the dark. When Sight Fairy Tale was activated, a strange landscape began to appear. It's like Isaac has woken up. So I'm glad something was very strange. Karidna couldn't keep her mouth shut. At first, the appearance of the White Dragon was reflected in my eyes. It was clearly the symbol of the White Clark family and mythology, the reality of the White Dragon. Isaac even reached out to the White Dragon and signed a master-slave contract as an 8-star salaried horse. Karidna doubted her eyes. It was an unbelievable sight. Extortion neutral attribute, Mortar 4. Wow. Suddenly, Akal placed her hand on Karidna's eyelid and used magic. Karidna screamed in surprise. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Neutral attribute magic that brings in the opponent's magic. Stealing. It was generally impractical because it could steal only the magic that the caster understood deeply. When it comes to White Clark's family magic, Sight Fairy Tale, it was Akal who had a better understanding than anyone else. Taking Karidna's Sight Fairy Tale was as easy as breathing. AKL closed her eyes and caught the sight of Isaac that she had stolen from Karidna. Oh, my sister. AKL reached out and stopped Karidna from approaching her. With a very serious face, Karidna swallowed a gasp and had to stand still. He is a person who has always had a gentle smile and joked around with a calm tone. It was the first time Karidna had ever seen AKL's face hardening seriously. What was reflected in AKL's vision were a giant white dragon, a scythe that was leaking enormous mana, and a dangerous demon. Soon, Glory of the Frost Lord was activated, and Isaac's body began to glow. With the sound of something exploding. A lot of bloody tears began to flow from AKL's closed eyes. AKL covered her eyes and sat down on the spot, screaming for her to explode. The Glory of the Frost Lord deflected Sight Fairy Tail and attacked AKL. Sister. Karidna tried to hug AKL. AKL stretched out her arm again, blocking her sister's approach. It's okay. Okay. The rest of his hand was covering his eyes. He was able to prevent the eyeballs from popping thanks to the constant use of basic protection magic of high proficiency, but the after effects seemed to last for quite some time. AKL trembled, breathing heavily in the agony. Brother, what absurd monster have you touched? Sister? Karidna trembled in terror. Sorry. I don't know what it is. I'm not scolding you. Suddenly, the corners of AKL's lips went up. It was a reaction that Karidna could not have expected at all. It's a compliment. AKL was rejoicing with her eyes wide open as she shed tears of blood, a smile as if the corners of his mouth were caught in his ears like a clown, eyes stained bright red. For the first time, Karidna felt that her sister looked creepy. Congratulations. You have defeated Heinkel of Poison of 155 and gained experience. Bye. Level up. Elv has risen to 63. Acquire stat 6. Bye. You have obtained the Heaven Bundle as a loot. Bye. The energy of Loot Heaven Bundle permeates you. Congratulations. You have acquired the unique skill Claire. Bye. It felt like something was rushing in. As I got used to the frosty scythe's cold that flowed into my body, I felt deeply depressed. My head didn't turn properly. In the meantime, as soon as I saw Ice and Snow Dragon Hill, I suddenly remembered that the Great Witch of Heaven gave me an 8-star service horse contract. So I just spit out the words to become my ministerial servant. I never dreamed that I would be really willing to be. Besides, Heinkel is a self-contained person. Suddenly, he reacted bluntly and threw it away. Why am I here? This one is for that little chicken owl. Only after adjusting to the frostbite's cold and accidents gradually returned to normal did he realize that he was in a very chaotic situation. Heinkel, who reads alone, was a licorice-like role in the first year, second semester part of Marchand's Magical Night. A demon who does not follow the orders of the evil god Nephid and takes a self-righteous attitude. He is the type of person who acts as he pleases, so it often becomes an unexpected variable in many stories. That kind of thing suddenly appeared, and I lost track of it before the second semester even started. In addition, the Clear Sight, which can be obtained by defeating the venomous Heinkel, has become mine. To Seorinath, to 8-star Sasakme, to Celian. What is this kindness? It feels like a 1+2 promotion product. Even Ice and Snow Dragon looked at me and said Ice out of nowhere. After thinking a little bit, I can guess the reason. 9-star passive skill, Ice obtained from fictional hell. It seems that Ice and Snow Dragon saw that and mistook me for its owner 1,000 years ago. Did you think it was something like the reincarnation of an ice cube? Bing and Snow Dragon has a grandmother-like corner, so it must have had something like the idea of reincarnation. At the end of the day, G was mistaken for himself, so he became my minister. Great Witch of Heaven, you have truly seen my destiny. To be honest, I was secretly looking forward to the situation of signing a contract with an 8-star service horse in a dramatic and grand atmosphere. It's a final level job. By the way, I don't think it's going to be a form that falls out of this shape. I'm sorry, Hild. I'm not the Ice Emperor. It's not like the reincarnation of the Ice Cube. When I tried to say those words to Bing and Snow Dragon, my heart became heavy. I can't even imagine how much betrayal I would feel and how shocked I would be. Because he's been missing the Ice Emperor for 1,000 years. After all, I had signed a contract with the scavenger hunt, so I wanted Ice and Snow Dragon to be my strength, at least until I catch the evil spirit. After that, it doesn't matter whether you cancel the contract or not. Until you defeat the evil spirit, should I even pretend to be the reincarnation of Ice? This one is for that little chicken owl. Or would it be better to be honest and say that I am not an ice cream? After wrapping my hair for a while, I decided to take a break and start thinking about it tomorrow. I'm so tired today. I decided to throw away my winter clothes altogether. It's deep in the trial cave, so I didn't want to find it until I explored the darkness. When I put my hand on the magic circle that came in and let a little magic flow, I was able to return to the Ela Forest. Now Ice and Snow Dragon is mine. It was also because I had the authority to oversee his entrance to the trial cave. It felt like eating. As soon as I got out of the Isle of Forest, my legs lost strength and I sat down. I didn't have the strength. As he took control of the frost scythe, the cold that had frozen his body disappeared, but the wound remained the same. The traces of dying from the cold remained intact on my body, a state that cannot be said to be okay even with empty words. All the scratches that had arisen from the cracked skin had been frozen in advance so that blood did not flow, but there was no way to avoid the tingling pain throughout the body. Ice generation, ice attribute. What on? I made an ice slab on the ground and lay down on it. It was because it seemed like it would be sad if even grass touched the wound and got tetanus. I stared at the night sky. A flower garden of shining stars was engraved in my eyes. It was hostile, gentle, and subdued. It was a bit of a twist, but it is undoubtedly true that a high risk, high return yielded a great harvest. All this pain, the wounds, felt so glorious. It really hurts. Really. I laughed out loud in pain. It was an unforgettable night. Meh. And situation. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwmtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Name: Isaac Elva, 63. Gender: male. Grade: 1. Title: first year adapting to undergraduate life. Horsepower: 3200 of 3000. Magical recovery speed: stamina B, strength B, intellect C+. Spirit A+. Potential details: combat ability, elemental class 1, ice. Elemental firepower B. Elemental efficiency B. Elemental synergy B. Elemental Series 2 locked. Own skills. Skills possessed. Details. Skill tree. Details. Unique attribute. Destroyer. Workhorse. Eden Law. 55. Rating. 3. Race. Beast. Attribute. Rock. Affinity. 70. Compatibility. 35. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Mana consumption when summoning. 50. Skills possessed. Details. Ice and Snow Dragon healed La. 180. Rating. 8. Race. Beast. Attribute. Ice. Affinity. 5. Compatibility. 0. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Mana consumption when summoning. 2000. Skills possessed. Details. We should check in the middle. After passing the trials of Frost, he was treated in the Academy emergency room. I was asked what had happened, and I roughly pretended that I was injured while training this and that. When I got back to the dorm, I fell asleep. Really tired, dog. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Morning. Lower class dormitory. Doris building. I leaned against the window and looked at the status window, organizing my thoughts. A cool morning breeze was blowing through the open window. The newly obtained Stat 6 was invested in learning efficiency, which helps speed up skill proficiency and study. It seemed that the elemental firepower level could be raised from B class to B class soon. Magic training efficiency. It was a remarkable growth rate thanks to its A class potential. By the way, many students already have excellent potential such as magic training efficiency. Marching Academy is prestigious. It is a place where people born with their own magical talents gather. They must also be refining themselves by constantly working hard. This one is for that little chicken owl. On the other hand, it's been a while since I've taken magic training efficiency to grade A. Although the Magical Knights of Marchen system has achieved tremendous growth by catching demon, it was unavoidable to fall behind other top-ranked guys or the innate talent Ian. This one is for that little chicken owl. One way or another, the higher the grade, the worse Isaac Coin will be. In the first semester, while I only leveled up a few other guys during the first semester, I raised 43. By the way, I still have a long way to go before I can use Healed. At most, I signed a contract with Ice and Snow Dragon Healed Destroyer in the inactive state. There was not enough mana to summon Ice and Snow Dragon. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My maximum amount of horsepower is 3200. On the other hand, to summon the Ice and Snow Dragon, a whopping 2000 horsepower was required. That's more than 6 times the difference. Even if you summon Healed, the mana required to maintain the summoned state will be enormous. It was unrealistic to deal with Healed while Destroyer was still inactive. Well, the fact that I got a final grade job in the first place was an achievement that exceeded my expectations. Magic Knight of Marchen. What you can get at the very end of the story. I got it from the beginning. If you have any concerns, how should I deal with... Well, I can't stand still without talking to Bing and Snow Dragon. Besides, it was highly likely that Ice and Snow Dragon was in a very bewildered state right now. You must be acutely aware that my magic is at the level of garbage. But since I can't summon the Ice and Snow Dragon itself, there was also a way to lower the amount of magic consumed for summoning by reducing the size and available magic power of the Fumigation Horse. However, at my level, it was difficult to summon the Ice and Snow Dragon even using that method. In other words, it was difficult for me to even talk to Bing and Snow Dragon. I'll have to think about how to solve this problem soon, and the list of skills in the status window has been simplified. Perhaps because of the increased number of skills. Now, I had to press Owned Skills Details to check the skills. Owned Skills. Active. 1 Ice Generation meh of 5 Black Ice B. 2 Ice Curtain. 1 Cold Air Dissipation B+. 1 Basic Protection Magic D+. 4 Frostfire C+. 4 Ice Wall C+. 5 Freeze Explosion C. 2 Cold Snow C. 7 Sky Domination White Knight E locked. 7 Sky Domination Sengya E locked. 7 Frostlord's Glory E locked. 7 Absolute Zero E locked. 7 clairvoyance, passive. 7 psychological insight. 5 demonic detection. 9 ice. 7 rapid cooling locked. A locked skill is a conditional skill. If you take out Hild's Frost Scythe, you will be able to use it. Semester 1 is almost over. But it's already achieved this level. The thought of ignoring all the rules of Marchand's magical night brings a sense of immorality and excitement. But the mood quickly subsided. It was because of the frostbite. In conclusion, I couldn't use the Frost Scythe with my current body. It was because the mana circuit was overloaded just by holding the Frost Scythe as soon as the Destroyer was released yesterday. Can you think of it as similar to the feeling that blood vessels are about to expand and burst due to the rapid increase in blood flow? This one is for that little chicken owl. Of course, I couldn't use the Frost Scythe magic properly, and I guessed that my body would freeze over just by swinging the Frost Scythe. In fact, handling the frostbite in front of a non-demon enemy was no less than an act of suicide. It also proves that I am that weak. It was also the final weapon. Should I even try, Claire? There was a strange magical power in his right eye. I drained that magic. Clearance neutral attribute? 7. It was an indescribable feeling. It's as if I was created as a different me that is not bound by time and space. I was able to move around by manipulating that other me in my head, as if I had mastered the Chukchi method. The other me moved at a high speed, and my vision flickered. My head was dizzy because my eyes were out of focus, so I closed my left eye tightly. What the right eye now captured was the scenery of the hydrangea garden in the distance. It was a strange feeling. Oh, okay. Where is the limit? I moved another me with great speed, and after a while, his vision began to darken, and as he moved a little further, he felt a sharp pain in his right eye, as if he had been hit by a hammer. Headache was a bonus. I released clearly, and pressed my right eye firmly. Jula was sick? What would it feel like to have a sty surgery without anesthesia? Cholian still had the lowest level of proficiency in the E-class, so despite the name Cheonri, he couldn't look into the distance. Still, it is clear that it is a good magic that can be usefully used, so you should be happy to gradually increase your proficiency. Watching Alice with this, it would be difficult to do if you don't want to face the extra bad ending. 11 sudden death. As the pain subsided, I caught my breath and lowered the hand that was holding my right eye. I looked towards the mirror. The right eye, which returned from silver to red, was reflected in the mirror. The clairvoyant will have to keep training. The second semester scenario? The fictional Lipa and self-taught Heinkel should appear in the second semester part. Killed them both early. As a result, it is unknown how the second semester scenario will play out. If the original scenario is the same, in the 4 constellations part of the second semester of the first year, Amy Holloway uses the household magic, distinguishing deep colors, to find out the dark inside of Lipa. That's how Amy's activities reveal that he's a demon, and move on to the fictional hell part. I don't know what will happen. The 4 constellations would compete for the light talent Ian Fairy Tale, but I didn't know. The biggest problem is the absence of Heinkel. This guy was in the role of creating variables like the Joker in the scenario for the second semester of the first year. Sometimes it drives Ian, and sometimes makes Ian out of the predicament, so I don't know how the story will progress. However, what I had to do was not much different from what I had done before. Defeating the demons and preventing the bad ending. It may be necessary to help Ian have the minimum threshold to proceed with the scenario. But that was something to think about when Ian returns after vacation. I waved my arms and turned off the status window and looked at the scenery outside the window. Through the ordeal, I felt the magic of the evil god through my skin, and I gained a new realization. It is clear that in order to defeat evil spirits, we must continue to train and become stronger. But that is not enough. Look alone. What do you do if you count? B. If you want to deal with Angra Mainyu, the servant of the evil god, right away. Unless you have a light attribute. You need to fill in level 200 by default. Otherwise, you will lose your life without being able to resist the bloody mana emitted by Angra Mainyu. However, it is safe to say that there is no human at level 200. In the end, the only thing that can defeat Angra Mainyu is Ian, the light attribute that can resist his magic. However, Ian is an SSS class stun expert who is a master of control. In other words, it would be much more realistic to defeat Angra Mainyu when I reach level 200, or somehow recruit a level 200 comrade and ask for help. However, there is also the Destruction Dragon Aji Dahaka and the Black Spirit Core. They all have to be stopped. Gathering power was of course in mind, but seemed to require more and stronger power than expected. I have one more task, but until the evil spirit is resurrected, attracting those who will become powerful forces to my side. At least, there must be several stronger beings than the present Dorothy. It will also be my long-term task. Hi. Oh, what a surprise. This one is for that little chicken owl. Out of the window, a girl suddenly came out from below. A witch hat and pale purple hair were visible. For a moment, it reminded me of a virgin ghost in a horror movie. So I stepped back in shock, and I thought my heart stopped. Nyahaha. The president is so funny. I mean, I'm weak at this. He took a deep breath to calm his emotions, and stared at Dorothy Hartnova floating in the air with starlight mana on her feet. Shut up, she said, straightening her posture and sitting with her buttocks on the windowsill. Bare legs stretched towards my room. Dorothy was dwarf and was dressed in plain clothes, showing her pale shoulders. It was nice because it was snowing in the morning. Senior. This is a men's dormitory. So it's difficult if you're like this. It's okay. I'm already full of points. There is nothing more to climb. Dorothy snorts and answers brightly. It didn't seem like something to be proud of. Chairman, what are you doing today? Come play with me. I have to go practice magic. I don't have time to play. Dorothy opened her axe's eyes and stared at me. Templar, are you selling, or I'll go get in the way? Now you are openly declaring that you are interfering? You pretended not to be normal. Chairman, is this older sister really sad? A person who is my fan doesn't even give me time when I want to play. Ew. 'Cause I can't. Really? Oh! I said it again. Suddenly, a faint smile appeared on Dorothy's face, leaving me speechless. What? Have I ever spoken to Dorothy? It seems like there have been a few times when I was like that. One, it was impossible to fully remember all the conversations with Dorothy, since I was always talking to Dorothy in my heart. There must have been times when I let the words flow naturally like water. In that case, I wouldn't even have been conscious of it. Was he the kind of person who cared about things like that? Dorothy Hartnova. Psychology. Again, Dorothy's mind was not read. It's a joke. You must not disturb our sincere president. Yes, but what happened? Everyone has come to say hello in the morning? I want to do something like this today. Dorothy laughed softly. It was a meaningful smile. Neehee. This older sister is over? See you later. Yes. Dorothy wrapped her body in starlight mana and became weightless, then went away. This one is for that little chicken owl. Oddly, I felt nauseous, because Dorothy's words seemed to contain many emotions. For a moment I scratched my head and retraced my conversation with Dorothy. Suddenly an absurd thought came to mind. There's no way Dorothy would have had memories of her ordeal. I shook my head, changed into my gym uniform, and left the dormitory. A swarm of cumulus clouds quietly floated in the sky. This time, it didn't seem like a cloud. Is the next Ice Emperor candidate decided? In case you have any questions, you can refer to ubumtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Northern Territory. Duchy of White Clark. The White Clark family had several secrets that could upset the Gerber Empire. Household Magic, Sight Fairy Tale was a prime example of this. But even this was only a speck of dust. The main character is Aiko White Clark, the eldest daughter of the Duke of White Clark and the next head of state. She also had a strong support force, so her position was solid. In reality, even her superficial location couldn't cut her down. There was a round table conference room in the basement of the White Clark mansion. Despite the luxuriously decorated exterior, the space was always dark because only the light-emitting lamp installed on the wall was scattering the faint light. There, AKL was standing at the end of the round table with her head bowed. This one is for that little chicken owl. One of the luxurious seats was shining particularly brightly. It was because the figure of an adult man made of lightning mana was sitting there. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwemtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Noble posture. He rested his elbows on the armrest and clenched his chin with his clenched fist. Yes, Lord of Lightning. Akale's voice rang softly. She had an eye patch on her right eye, which had not yet healed. The form of lightning mana is the Archmage and the original King of Lightning. It belongs to a man who is called Thunder Emperor Lei Di, because he is in the position of the God of Lightning. It was like a remote-controlled doll. The king of each elemental attribute, also known as the original king, is a nation, an army, and a law in itself. Each of them has built and governed a country, and has a strong influence that can shake the world with pure force. The Gerber Empire was no exception. For this reason, in the history of more than several centuries, the Gerber Empire has taken an attitude to establish friendly relations as soon as the existence of the original king appears. There have been many conflicts in history, but for now, it was a completely entrenched tradition. I was confused after reading the letter. What was the reaction of the other original king? You seem to be considering it only as an agenda item for the next meeting of the King One. It's an atmosphere where people simply think that a human with an ice attribute and great magical talent has appeared, and they don't really care. And if it is known that the original kings meet once every 3 years to have a roundtable meeting beyond the empire, the whole world will become cold. One Wing is the apex of the wizard family. He is the strongest wizard in this world. Even within the empire, the Archmage is treated as an extraterrestrial realm. Among them, those who are served as masters by the subordinates and monsters of each elemental attribute scattered around the world are naturally called One Wing. And the nation is founded since the One Wing is such a great and dangerous being. They agreed to hold regular meetings to check each other out. In the name of promoting harmony, Achel, the next head of the White Clark family in the Gerber Empire, who can stand in a neutral position as the host, was selected. Achel is capable, has a strong support force, has a high status as a noble, and is a promising talent who will become the next Northern Grand Princess of the Empire. The love of peace, above all else, made the original kings agree. I had the same thought at first, but suddenly my curiosity grew. A new candidate to become Ice Ice, which has been vacant for 1,000 years. 'Cause you don't know what that means. Neither. That's right. Can you show me? I want to see with my own eyes the reason you said you were a candidate for Ice Emperor. Akale nodded quietly, then placed a finger on her forehead. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Magical power surged through his fingers. It was a process of pulling out a single image contained in my head. In case you have any questions, you can refer to uwumtel.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Next, Akael swung her finger in the middle of the round table. The image contained in her head began to play in front of the Thunder King, the original King of Lightning. Visual assimilation, regeneration, neutral attribute, Zell. It was a video in my head that I saw through the perspective of a man, through the White Clark family's family magic, Sight Fairy Tale. It had been stolen from Caridna a few days ago. In the video, a frost scythe was held in the hand of the owner of the site. The white dragon in the myth, Ice and Snow Dragonhild, became his workhorse. Both eyes widened at the sight. Then, while the owner of the Field of Vision was fighting a demon who appeared to be about 4 meters tall, he activated Glory of the Frost Lord. The video disappeared like a flash. Silence ensued for a while. He patted his chin in thought, then opened his mouth. He is sleeping. Yeah. I am the next Ice Emperor candidate I mentioned. His name is Isaac, a commoner who has blue and silver hair and red eyes, and doesn't even have a surname. I am currently a first-year student at the Marchant Academy of the Gerber Empire. Hey, student. Bah. The exclamation was mixed in the tone of the tone overflowing with the dignity of the heirloom. It's only an academy freshman level nightclub. It was clear that Isaac was born with an overwhelming talent, but what does it mean to be born with magical talent? The important thing is that he received the recognition of both the magical beast and the frostbite in the myth that the original king ruled at the same time. This was a problem that went far beyond expectations, because it means that a commoner named Isaac is more suited to the Lord of Ice than anyone else. Marchant Academy. I heard that demons have appeared several times recently. Even the news that an unidentified monster is killing those demons. I couldn't have known that he even went to the Gerber Imperial Knights. Was that monster that child? Bye. As a result of gathering the information, it is at an unmistakable level. He seems to be hiding his identity. Is it magic camouflage? Yes, maybe. The events that took place at the Marchant Academy were on vacation, and even the Imperial Knights had risen to the surface. Demons that appear frequently, and monster wizards who defeat such demons. And the Child of Light. Ian Fairy Tale. The purpose is it to protect the children of light and people? If we were to argue with each other on this part, it wouldn't make any sense. Nothing is clear. Man. He continued to speak, stroking his chin. Certainly. It is interesting information after looking at it. That child will surely reach the level of an archmage. Don't assert as the next Ice Emperor. It goes beyond the level of strong and is nothing more than confirmation. While the friars were saying that, Akael was hesitant to say anything. He did not miss the reaction. Why do you do that? Akael. Chana. The source of this information is my sister, Caridna Whitecloak. When I heard the story from the child, the next Ice Emperor candidate was rated as E-class in magical power, so he is said to be a celebrity in a bad sense. It is the lowest level. It was said that he looked weak just before the end of this first semester. Frogs immediately guessed what Akael meant. Can you hide your magical power? Then, to let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Manipulation of maximum horsepower. This is like rubbing each cell at will. It was absurd to say the least. But it was also possible somehow if it had reached the level of an archmage that had already transcended the realm of human beings. And it was said that Isaac, a first-year academy student, was already manipulating the maximum amount of mana. If we were to pick the greatest genius on the continent right now, everyone would say the name Dorothy Hart Nova. He is considered a genius driven by the blessings of heaven, and even signed a contract with the star fairy Stella. It was predicted that within the next 10 years, he would be able to reach the status of an archmage. Even this was an outstanding talent that was close to the level of the original king. But a commoner named Isaac, are you saying that you are already way ahead of that level? There was tension in the basement. One of the strongest beings in this world was silently admiring the name of a man who was gifted with more talent than himself. Isaac. While pondering in his head, if the author becomes the king of ice, I can't even imagine how powerful an ice empire would be formed. Ice and Snow Dragon and Frostbite recognize them as owners, so those ferocious monsters are no exception. Isaac. It was obvious to anyone that he would later become an archmage and ascend to the throne of the original king. And many ice minions and magical beasts, who have wildly evolved in the midst of disorder, will welcome a new master and restore order. They have been waiting for a new master to lead them. Among them, one should be especially careful. Bingtawung Barbatoma, Sangui Merbul, Taedongak Tugarosa. Are you talking? The emperor nodded his head. For more than 1,000 years, each of them has been developing their own strength, and beings who have risen to the ranks of earth and heaven, Bingtawung, Sangui, and Taedongak. What if those ferocious and powerful monsters all took over Isaac as their master? I don't know how much higher the authority of Isaac, who is the owner of the Ice and Snow Dragon and the Frost Scythe, and is born with overwhelming magical talent. It was almost unimaginable. What do you think? Akael closed her eyes gently to organize her thoughts, then opened her eyes again and expressed her opinion. It's just my personal opinion. It is presumed that a man named Isaac entered the school after predicting the frequent occurrence of demons of unknown cause at the place called Marchen Academy. I think he may have been born with a heroic disposition, sacrificing himself to protect others. AKL couldn't hide her teething lips. I am a peace lover. If a person with a spirit of self-sacrifice can become the ruler of so many disasters and things, and restore order, AKL's frenzied obsession for peace was clearly reflected in the vision of the Emperor. It's a very good thing for me. I don't know who Isaac is, no matter what his hobbies were, what his ideal type was, or what his favorite food was. He had no interest at all. AKL looked only at the objective truth, the fact that a man named Isaac is protecting people by killing demons. So, if a man named Isaac is the person I expected, I hope that he will rise to the throne in the future and stand shoulder to shoulder with the Supreme Kings. I personally look forward to it. For 1,000 years, the seat of the Ice Maker was vacant. So, on the day she was struck by glorification of the Frost Lord, Eichel was delighted to know that Isaac was a strong candidate for the Ice Maker and thought that there was a way to suppress the monsters of ice. I understand what you mean. Taban. The Emperor replied sarcastically. That was good information. I'm glad I couldn't win out of curiosity. Bye. At the end of those words, the lightning mana that made up the thunderstorm was scattered in the air. Akael bowed her head. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. Meanwhile, the land of lightning, Jabrok, inside the majestic castle. In the grand hall, there was a luxurious Hannah chair made of purple and gold, the colors symbolizing Zabrok. The man in the slim black robe who was sitting on the chair opened his eyes quietly. Purple hair with rounded bangs. In the man's eyes, the mana of lightning of the thick concentration was flowing splendidly. Balkan. Yes. Brainji. As the man's dignified voice resounded through the air, lightning mana condensed in front of the king's chair, taking the form of a large ultramarine gorilla. Lightning mana constantly flowing over the shoulder. It was a 6-star service horse. Balkan. Balkan bowed one knee and bowed his head to pay his respects to his master. I will go to the Gerber Empire, the Marchen Academy. Go through the process right now. The elegant voice of the thunder came down. Isaac. Let's see the man with our own eyes. The brainchild had made a decision. Eden. Won't you please call me Ryder Isaac? Kuwong. Bah. I was so excited that I started talking nonsense to the little golem. Eden. I was grateful for the guy who responded with a smile. In case you have any questions, you can refer to umtl.com for references. I dedicate this to Silky Goat. Now that I got the frostbite, I started working part-time as planned. It was a manager thing. As mentioned above, the driver here refers to the job of driving a wagon with magical power. This is not to say that there are no basic horse-drawn carriages, it's just that, within the premises of the Marchen Academy, the wagons that they pull while using their magic power are favorably used. As an aside, the students who returned home after vacation must have all ridden in basic horse-drawn carriages, cause it's stable. Anyway, I had borrowed a small wagon, dressed in a crude coachman's outfit. The driver's job is greatly affected by elemental efficiency, and it was also a job to increase elemental efficiency itself. It was the best part-time job for me as a Marchen Academy student. This one is for that little chicken owl. Of course, it was only possible to get a part-time job after practicing carriage driving for a few days and getting approval from the coachman. So I've been pulling the wagon hard for the past few days. Since I was familiar with the Academy sitemap, there was no problem in finding my way. It's a vacation, so there are a few people. Eden next to me said Kuwung and hit me back. Where I am is a carriage stop. The place that was bustling during the school year is now quiet. There were only a few wagons. Most of the students leave the academy during vacation, so there is no reason for coaches to stay here. In other words, the supply of wagon service during the vacation is very small. However, there were several commercial districts on the site of the academy, and there were still many students who remained in the academy, so the carriage must be in demand. How come there were no customers at the stop? Well, Eden, let's go to work. Okay. To let you know that I've been through a lot, then I've been going non-stop with this practice for nothing, and this belonged to Huehue. My worries were short. The original business is to run while running. I decided to move